Hello everyone. I know you're used to hearing these videos in front of a class, but unfortunately this year when I taught this new lesson, I forgot to bring the recording card that I need to use in my camera in order to record this lesson. So I'm going to have to do this outside of a class. Next year I will go ahead and record it with a class and having their input, because I know several of you have commented that you appreciate having the class's input and questions as you're listening to a video. This lesson is entitled Connecting F prime and F double prime to F. And this concept is very important because it shows up a lot on the AP exam. As you read the directions, you will see that it says a graph of F prime is sketched above. So I always make my students put an F prime next to the graph. Very, very frequently you will see on the AP exam a situation where they will give you a graph of F prime and ask you questions about either F prime itself, F double prime, or F. So, it says to use this graph to answer the following questions. So, what we're going to actually do is do something we have already been doing in class quite a bit. We are going to create an F prime number line. Now, on an F prime number line, the symbols that we usually put up at the top are pluses and minuses. And plus and minus, if you remember, talks about where the graph of F prime is positive and negative. Now, when I talk about a positive graph, think for a minute, what does that mean? A positive graph is a graph that is above the x-axis. So what you need to do at this point is to look at this and talk to yourself about what you see on F prime. Where is it above the x-axis? Where is it below the x-axis? So this graph of F prime starts where? Above the x-axis. So we put a plus sign for that because it's a positive graph. And it is positive until you get to -2. So I write the number -2 on the line. Then it is negative after that because it's below the x-axis until I get to 0. After that, it is positive again until I get to 2, so I put a plus sign, then a 2. Then it's negative again until I get to about, I would estimate, 3. And then after that, it is positive. So from there, I now look and see, okay, if F prime is positive, what does that tell me about F? When F prime is positive, F is increasing. When F prime is negative, F is decreasing. So go ahead and fill in the rest of your arrows along here. Now, you may not have a picture of F in front of you, but you definitely have the shape of the graph of F. It goes up, then it goes down, then it goes up and down and back up again. Could you tell from just looking at this number line where F's maxes and mins are? And the answer to that question is hopefully yes. And it may ask us that later on down the line. Okay? If you scan through the questions, you'll notice that number 4 is asking about F double prime. Because it does ask about F double prime, we also need to make an F double prime number line. And we've done this recently. Now, making an F double prime number line is kind of hard because I have a picture of F prime in front of me, not a picture of F double prime. So what I'm going to do is write what goes below it, F prime. And I'm going to look at this graph to figure out what to put here. Now, this number line mimics this number line here as far as what you write on it. I may not know where F double prime is positive and negative yet, but I can tell where F prime is increasing and decreasing, and that's the information I need to look at on this curve. So ask yourself, what is F prime doing first? It is going down, so we're going to draw a down arrow for decreasing until I get to about there, which I'll call -1. Then it increases until I get to +1. Then it decreases again to here. Now, I've had several of my students when I taught this think that that was 3, but remember, this point here is 3. That point there is before 3, so I'm going to call that point 2.5. and then it increases after that. So is this the correct shape of the graph? Decreasing, then increasing. That's what my arrows are showing. So we're going to look at this situation in reverse. If f prime is decreasing, f double prime is negative. If f prime is increasing, f double prime is positive, and so on. So negative and then positive. Well, that's nice. It kind of mimics what I'm doing right here, but what does it tell me about f? If you recall the concavity lesson, the signs of f prime tell me information about f. When f prime is negative, f is concave down. When f double prime is positive, f is concave up, then concave down, and concave up. Now, you have just created in these two number lines every piece of information you need to answer all the questions about these graphs. You see the connections between f prime, and f double prime. Okay, so let's look at the questions. Number 1, over what intervals is f prime less than 0? So ask yourself, what does less than 0 mean? Less than 0 means negative. So I'm wanting to know, where is f prime negative? Which of the two number lines talks about f prime being positive or negative? It happens to be this one. So f prime from -2 to 0, and then again union 2 to 3. Okay. Over what intervals is f of x decreasing? F of x. So I'm looking for f of x information that talks about decreasing. No, this one is talking about f prime increasing and decreasing, so I'm back over here. Where is f decreasing? F decreasing right here. Oh, it happens to be the same interval as before, -2 to 0 and 2 to 3. So even though this question asked me about f prime and this question asked me about f, it's still the same answer for both. All right, let's look at the next one. Number 3, over what intervals is f prime decreasing? So I'm looking for f prime talking about decreasing. That's not this graph, it's this one. Notice f prime is dealing with increasing and decreasing. So where is it decreasing? From -infinity up to -1, and then from 1 to 2.5. Number 4, scoot this up just a little bit, because honestly right now I'm not even looking at the graph. Everything I need is right here in my number lines. Over what interval or intervals is f double prime negative? Okay, the only thing that talks about f double prime is this. I'm looking at where it's negative. It happens to be -infinity to -1, and then again from 1 to 2.5. So that's the answer to that one. If you think you've got the hang of this, I would recommend pausing the video and seeing if you can fill in the rest of the questions up through number 8. When you're done, turn the video back on and I will go over those with you. Okay, let's talk about number 5. Over what interval or intervals is the graph of f of x concave down? So I'm looking at f and I'm looking at its concavity. The only thing that talks about that is this right here. I want the concave down sections, which happens to be and 1 to 2.5. So all 3 of these questions had the exact same answers. Okay, number 6. At what values of x does f of x have a relative maximum? So we're looking for f's maximum. We find the max and mins of f based on where f is increasing and decreasing. So the maximum points would be at x equals -2 and x equals +2. Because we do not have an equation or a graph for f, we cannot figure out what their y values are going to be. All we can find is the x values. Number 7, at what values of x does f of x have a relative minimum? Well, the minimum right here is x equals 0 and x equals 3. Finally, number 8, does f of x have any points of inflection? Where do points of inflection come from? Well, if you recall, the definition of a point of inflection is where f double prime changes sign or where F changes concavity. So if we're looking at concavity changes, we're going to be looking at the second number line. So the only possible points of inflection are these three numbers that we wrote right here. Do all three of them change sign at those respective numbers? And the answer is yes. So all three of them are points of inflection. X equals -1, x equals +1, and x equals 2.5. The final question is something that I will cover in a later lesson on how to take these number lines and sketch a graph based on what you have right here. But for now, I want to focus on just this kind of information so that you understand the relationship between the double prime, the prime, and F, both in this kind of number line and this kind of number line. All right, there is a practice page on the back of this worksheet where I have another problem, another graph that you need to answer questions about. So I'm leaving this here visible for you to see, so if you are watching this video and not one of my students in class, you can pause it right here, keep it on the screen, and see if you can answer the questions to this. The answers to this homework assignment are on my school website, and it happens to be, the school website is www.neisd.net/Reagan. And if you go there, go to the faculty and look for my name, you can click on my teacher webpage and you will find the answers to this. So if you want to practice on these problems, you can go there and find the answers to this worksheet.